So the new James Bond movie came out, and the second it did, and combined with the second that I saw Christoph Waltz appear in the trailer, I knew I had to get my ass over to a movie theater and watch that shit immediately. I love Christoph Waltz. I don't know what it is about him. He's just a rustic, foreign, I don't know, a rustic foreign Napoleon of a man. That's just absolutely my favorite actor. Is absolutely brilliant. Everything he's in, I freaking adore. Big eyes. When he was Chitnovsky in Green Hornet. When he was in Water for Elephants. I'm pretty sure he was in that. He was the evil circus owner or whatever. Not evil. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was evil. But yeah, everything. The second I saw Christoph Waltz was in that, I'm like, I gotta get my ass over to the movie theater to watch that immediately. Because I hadn't really kept up with the James Bond movies at all. I wasn't a big fan of James Bond. At least not up until Skyfall with what was it, Daniel Craig, because I knew this was like his, by the time with the Christoph Waltz trailer or whatever, that was like the fourth Daniel Craig James Bond movie. And I figured, hey, I'll try it out, because Christoph Waltz, I think he makes a good bad guy, he makes a good guy, he makes anything you put him in, he's perfect. But I figured, like, I'd go over and try it out. Maybe if I got interested in that James Bond film, maybe I'll watch him backwards. And I did. I went back and I had realized that some of my favorite actors, Mads, he was in, he played one of the bad guys in one of the older ones, one of the older Daniel Craig, I think like 1, 2, or 3. Might have been Casino Royale. I think he played a bad guy. He was the dude. Mads played the dude who kept. He had James Bond in a chair with a hole cut out in the middle, and he took like this thing and he swung it under, and it kept cracking him in the nuts, and it was like a form of torture. It was so funny. And then he tells him like these guys are coming to kill him. So James Bond looks up to him and he's like, "Now everyone's gonna know that you died playing with my balls." And it was just the funniest shit. The first time I saw that, I cackled till I fell over. But other than those short scenes like that, I was never really, really into James Bond. After seeing this movie, I did realize some things. One of those being the connections to the older James Bond. I mean, like the one from like Sean Connery, when Sean Connery was Bond. Now those, even though I wasn't really into James Bond, I knew Sean Connery played him, and I knew some things about it, mainly because, I frequently see James Bond spoofed, Love, Austin Powers. My dad was really into it, so he's got like almost all the movies. I've got almost all of them. They're lined up right there. All the older ones that I thought were interesting, but I was never like super into the series. Ended up getting these after the fact. But I did know some things about the old Bond, such as Dr. Blofeld, as arch nemesis or whatever. And in this, they explain, and we're getting into a spoiler thing here, so I found it, I kind of liked how they connected this, Daniel Craig's Bond, to Sean Connery's Bond. As in, I believe it was, Christoph Waltz played a bad guy who was like the son of Blofeld's sister or nephew or cousin or something. They were related in some way, and it was very interesting. And not only that, but Daniel Craig's Bond is also the adopted brother of the new, I guess you could call him, Dr. Blofeld. That's pretty much who Christoph Waltz was in this movie. He was the new Dr. Blofeld, who ironically got his little scar at the end of the movie too. And maybe he went bald. Not sure. But yeah, I found that really interesting how they tied everything to that. And with those ties, I realized something. That theory, or at least appears to be a theory about James Bond, is true. That theory being that James Bond isn't one individual, it's a title passed down from different agents to different agents. That would imply that every single different James Bond that you've seen in a movie, every time he was played by a different actor, that really was a different person. Like, they didn't see the same person. It wasn't the same character. Either the last Bond died on the field, or he retired, or got promoted or demoted or whatever. So it was a different James Bond all throughout these years, which I found super interesting. I like the way that was it was kind of assured in this movie. That's the way they set it up. And now, this one, according to Daniel Craig, I believe, he wanted this to be his last Bond movie, and they really did end it off like that. Like, they had this whole thing where Christoph Waltz, when they finally caught him, was like, why do you think every woman you ever fell in love with died? It was me the whole time. I was orchestrating your destruction every step of the way. So I found that interesting how they kind of made the new Blofeld, like, they kind of made him the final absolute, like, that's it, man. After you beat this guy, that's it, you're home free. And by the end of the movie, it did feel that way. He was finally in love with a woman that wasn't dead, or doesn't look like she's going to die, and he actually did this whole thing where he was going to, she didn't like killing, and that he actually ends up getting with, is the more proper word for James Bond. He ends up getting with the daughter of a villain that he supposedly killed at the ending of the last movie. Shot him in like the legs or something. Turns out he just arrested him, brought him into whatever organization he works into. So yeah, he ends up getting with one of his villain's daughters, which is okay, whatever. But yeah, it ends off with him pretty much retiring, quitting. I guess it was a pretty okay spot to leave off on. So now it's kind of like they're kind of like prepping the chair for who's going to be the new James Bond, which people are like, oh, they're probably going to make it an African American actor, which, okay, that'd be interesting to see. I mean, I'm not like one of those people where it's like, oh no, they're changing the race, and then next there's going to be a woman James Bond, and I wouldn't, guys, relax, I wouldn't freak out about that too soon. But with the whole Ghostbusters, all-female Ghostbusters just coming out, people I'm sure are now going to start freaking out about the rebirth of all these older series and franchises and replacing them with sex, race, or whatever to make it politically correct. I would like to see a Black James Bond. That'd be very interesting, I think, because I don't know, it would just show it. Nowadays, I don't think it would be as taboo. Like, the way that I see it, if I see someone like casting, like if the next James Bond is black, I don't see anything of a big deal with that. Whereas most people would be like, no, it was always like a white male or something like that. Same thing, issues with like Doctor Who and everything. Everyone would be all like having a shitstorm if there was a female Doctor. And I guess with the new season of the last season of Doctor Who, or last two at least, they kind of teased that when his arch nemesis actually ended up being a female, which I thought was kind of funny. Probably pre-planned, very clever. I give them props for that. But yeah, Black James Bond, I think, would be a good way to usher in, I guess, the modern times, show them that times are different, and not only to make the new James Bond black, but make him like 25, 24, make him really young, just to show, like, I don't know, it's like a new ushering in of like the new age and everything that's old is dead. Because, like, I think it is time for some of these series to grow up and not necessarily drop what was good about them, but just improve upon it, bring it forward. Kind of like with Indiana Jones. I would have been completely fine with a younger Indiana Jones with like his son or something taking over. I think that would be great. Then we'd have a 21st century Indiana Jones. And just imagine the shit that he could go after nowadays. Yeah, but other than that, yeah, the new James Bond I thought was pretty good. It's very long. My parents couldn't get into it, and they love James Bond. It was very long. If you have the patience for it, I guess you could pass it up. Only really, I'd say if you're only like a really really big fan, or if you just love Christoph Waltz to death, then you're gonna like this movie. I think he plays a pretty good villain. The villain, personally, I think is like black and white, just average. He's just there to connect this to Sean Connery, and he's just there to provide some Blofeld fan service. And yeah, other than that, I think it was all around pretty good. Probably gonna get it when it comes out, and yeah, can't wait for any future James Bonds that they have coming. So I think that's gonna do it for this video, and I'll see y'all next time.